Hey, good afternoon. Really happy to be here, and sorry, this will be in Spanish. No, English, sorry. Yeah, a little bit about me. I'm Miles. Maybe they just said that, but at some places you can see me on the internet. Not very interesting, so don't bother looking. But I started with Rails in about 2008, and Ruby and the very early Rails, and just messing around when I didn't have much better to do. And was living in San Francisco, and then from San Francisco moved to Japan, and I've been in Japan for the last 6 years, and then just moved, literally just moved to England on Monday. Kind of crazy timing. But yeah, and I work at Cookpad, and we're really happy to be able to help sponsor this great event, and we've been... Just a little bit. One of many great sponsors, I should say, all these guys, I think, yeah. That sign was looking a bit how I feel earlier when it just started to keel over, so I might do an impression of that. But yeah, I've been at Cookpad for about 6 years now, and our mission is basically to improve people's lives through cooking, which is a simple idea. So in Japan, yeah, this is all Japanese. Can probably tell, but yeah, Cookpad is the biggest recipe community actually in the world now. It's one of the biggest Rails sites, and almost unbelievably, but we have 60 million unique browsers in Japan, unique people every month, and there's only 110 million human beings, so something's a bit strange there. But we have about 80% of women between 20 and 40 using Cookpad, and it's really amazing. Like I said, I've been there for 6 years, and I always ask people, you know, or if I'm in conversation, ask if they know Cookpad. Always say they love Cookpad if it's a woman in that age range. So it's really great to be working for a company that people enjoy and rely on. So in the last couple years, we've tried to take what we've learned in Japan. In fact, that's 18 years in the making in Japan, so it's a big overnight success. But we've kind of taken that, what we've learned in Japan, and trying to move it internationally. We launched our global platform about 2 years ago, and we, through a series of acquisitions, great recipe community in Spain, one in Indonesia, one in America, one more recently in the Middle East. We've been pulling all these services, you know, into one platform. And now we have about 30 million users outside of Japan using Cookpad in multiple languages, in 10 languages. What's next? Yeah, and so what we really strongly believe in is that the local teams is a key aspect to our success, or our future success. So it's a local team, but global development. And really what that means is we've got people, engineers dotted around all over the world, and it's really, really important because, you know, someone like me, I'm from England, and I've got no idea what's going on in Jakarta, how the technology works, what people eat, what their challenges are with devices. Actually, I have a little idea because I was there recently, and the internet is absolutely excruciating. It's almost impossible to use on mobile phones, but it's really important to have people who live there, you know, every day. People in Vietnam, we have people in Brazil, Spain, and we want these engineers to experience that and bring all their kind of life and families into our product so that we can really service the people in those regions. So we have a lot of these offices dotted around the place. This is oh yeah, so this is Jakarta. What's my note here? Yeah, really interesting thing about Indonesia, which you would never know if you're living in America and just building something on crazy fast internet. Most of the phone carriers, to avoid paying, you get free internet if you use Opera Mini, which is a really painful kind of proxy browser that tries to compile JavaScript and basically breaks most websites. But everybody uses that because if they use Opera Mini, they don't pay for internet on their phone. If they want to use Chrome, they have to pay money. So pay money is bad. Then we have an office in Alicante, and that's kind of servicing lots of users in the Spanish-speaking world. It's our team in Lebanon. And again, another reason why it's great to have engineers and people who understand technology in these regions is obviously Arabic is backwards, left to right. Or depending how you, right to left, sorry, depending how you see it, I guess. But it's impossible for someone like me or someone in Japan to understand Arabic, so it's really important for engineers to, you know, sweat the small details on all those things. We have a small office in Palo Alto, and I'm actually, like I said, just moved to UK, so we're opening an office in UK probably when I get back. And also we have a great new team member from Colombia, who some of you may know. Won't mention that. But yeah, as you can imagine, so this team spread all over the world, and it's a real challenge to kind of get work done. As you can imagine, it's hard enough when you're working, sitting next to somebody and getting things done. People got headphones on, but when we have people all over the world, different time zones, it's really, really difficult. And the main thing I would say is just communication. All we have to work on is communication. But I wanted to introduce a couple of tools that we've kind of developed and worked on to help with this, and just 5 things, and it won't take long. It's not too painful. So these are the 5 things I'm going to talk about. So the first one is a kind of concept of validation board, and it's really it's a simple device. It doesn't look it, but what we really want to focus on is communicating our ideas. So everybody has an idea. I think we should do this. I think we should have this button that opens this window, and I think we should do this. I think it should scroll from the left. I think we should add alternative ingredients. Millions of ideas all day long, and we can't scale those ideas. We can't leverage those people's great ideas unless we have some kind of a process. So what we came up with is kind of validation board where we push everybody's idea through the same kind of framework, and it hinges around hypothesis-driven development, which is an interesting kind of topic. But basically, it means that you have to have a hypothesis for your kind of feature idea. And they're very, very simple, but there's kind of a few key points. Each hypothesis has to have an owner, so it's no point just coming up with an idea, pushing it over to developers, and then kind of going off and going to lunch. You got to own this idea from start to finish. You need some background of why. Why do you think this is important? Why should this button be twice as big? And then the hypothesis is kind of the key point that we use the same kind of phrase structure, which is for every feature, we believe that a capability will result in this outcome, and we'll know we've succeeded when this measurable result is met. So, and that kind of thought process of thinking about what is this feature I'm proposing, how do I know when it will succeed, just that really kind of limits, reduces the amount of features we talk about. But what we find is having this very simple common framework that everybody understands and everybody's using the same language. Again, so just communication, it really helps. And then in our validation backlog, we have an inbox, backlog, developing, validated. So basically all built on that hypothesis framework. Every feature will go through those stages, and we'll implement, we'll release it, then we'll validate. And if after 2 weeks, the idea was that, hey, this button will increase people who like a recipe by 50%. If it doesn't happen, then we'll most likely remove that feature. Just have a quick drink. Tempted to gargle then. So the second thing I was going to talk about is PT flow. And this is just a tiny tool, but it really helps with communication. And something, I really love this thing. And it basically, we use a common kind of pull request flow. And constantly you have stories and ideas that you want to implement. But then you have to create a branch, feature branch, work on that branch, push it, make a pull request. And all these small things, I was always finding, hey, trying to think of a name for a branch, I'd spend 20, 30 seconds just thinking, what should I call this branch? So PT Flow basically integrates with Pivotal Tracker and GitHub, and will basically automate that process. So you just basically type git start. It shows all of our stories in Tracker, and then you pick the one you want to work on. And then, missed the slide. But basically it will create a branch for you on your local machine using that name, and you don't have to do anything. It'll change the story state in Pivotal Tracker. And then when you're finished, you type git finish, and it will kind of push the branch up, open up a pull request using the same title. Really small thing, but it's just common framework, common way to communicate, and just saves time. Another very simple feature, but this is really, really important when we have teams in so many different regions with different ideas. We want to be able to kind of validate an idea on a subset of users. So we use this, pretty well-known idea, but I'll talk about it here, called feature toggles. And in Cookpad in Japan, we have a huge framework called Chanko, which is a very involved, kind of amazing framework for doing the same kind of thing, but it's so complicated. And I was kind of inspired by Robert Sandheim from GitHub. He did a talk about this kind of feature. And basically, as simple as this, you make some kind of toggle criteria. This one's trending keywords are enabled. So basically, if we're in Indonesia, English, or Vietnamese, then this feature is enabled. And then in your code, we're just wrapping the code with a conditional. Yeah, it looks ugly. It looks not particularly beautiful, but what it does, it enables us to have a simple test in a region, validate a hypothesis without a huge amount of code. And it's very easy to manage. We probably have about 10 or 15 of these running at a time. And that criteria of whether this toggle is active can be anything. Could be is admin user, is username begins with A. Could be any kind of criteria that you want to make a subset of this validation criteria. Next thing is another, and all these tools are kind of open sourced on github.com/cookpad. Maybe not this one. Bad timing to mention that, but it will be soon. This is a bot we made. Another thing, simple thing around communication and wasting time on stupid little things. So we made a bot that when we push our code, if we name the branch WIP, then the bot will automatically spring into action, and it will add a tag. And we do this for work in progress, and we do this for when somebody does a thumbs up, which means it's been reviewed by someone else on the team, we'll mark it as reviewed. And having these simple tags means that we can, in our pull request list, we can filter and see just what's new and what needs to be processed. So we may have 20 or 30 pull requests because there's so many people working at the same time. But this way of filtering really helps us save time. Yeah, I think that might be, that was the thumbs up thing. So yeah, in the list you can really easily see, oh, this last one is something that needs my attention. I don't have to waste time. And you can do a little kind of, I forget the syntax now, something like dash label, minus label, and it will exclude them in GitHub. Last little feature in CP8 we'll kind of go through, and after, I think it's 4 or 5 weeks, we'll go through, and if something hasn't been looked at or commented, we'll just basically close it. And it's kind of a really surprising technique that if you go in and, if I go in and say, hey, your pull request, I'm going to close this, I don't like what you're doing, gets people angry, but this thing, people somehow kind of like this. It's like, oh, cool, yeah, hey, thanks a lot, CP8. Watching my back. It's kind of an interesting social experiment, but yeah. So we get rid of a lot of junk like that. Then the last thing I wanted to talk about was another open source tool called Capistrano Fiesta. And what we found was constantly we've got lots of community managers and lots of non-engineering people in Cookpad always asking, oh, did we release this feature? When did this happen? Is this already released? So basically we started off we made a channel in Slack release and we tried to type in, but everybody forgets. So with Capistrano Fiesta, it will basically go and kind of find all the pull requests that happened since the last release, and then make a, take the highlights from those pull requests and the images also, and put them in a Vim session. So when you do cap deploy, this thing pops up. You get a chance to quickly edit it, and check what these images are, and then in Slack it will automatically say new release, puts the images in, and this again sounds stupid, like why would we bother? But I think this is one of the best things we ever did in terms of communication and not having people asking me every hour, did this release? Now nobody ever asks anything, which is great. And also another cool feature that it will create a kind of a release tag. So this is also really helpful when you're trying to go back to figure out what the hell happened when something bad happens. But yeah, a little bit quick, but yeah, I talked about 5 things, and none of them are going to change the world, but I think they really help with communication. It's really communication, communication, and communication. That's the only thing that matters with a large distributed team. We've got time zones and you know, different ways of working, but communicating is really the key. Yeah, last thing, I just wanted to just give a big thumbs up to RubyConf Colombia. It's been amazing already, just the first day, so amazing team. It's a lot of hard work to put on a conference, and I think you know, everybody should really appreciate and embrace this community. It's so fantastic. I think it's just going to grow and grow and grow, and just really believe in what you're doing and believe in yourselves, and I think it can be great. Yeah, that's me again. Got a blog, I forgot, so yeah, check out the blog.